Good day, everyone, especially to our beloved Professor, Attorney Hannah Baliti Anino. Today, we will be presenting a very important international instrument, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, or the CRC. I will be the first to report, followed by Ma'am Sharadon Ilaya and Ma'am Mary Jane Anino. So, to make our discussion more accessible and engaging, we've simplified key concepts so that everyone can better understand what the CRC is all about. And for those who would like to explore the full legal text, we will also be providing a soft copy of the convention. We hope that this presentation helps us all appreciate the critical importance of upholding and protecting the rights of every child. We are reporting today on a landmark international agreement that lies at the heart of global efforts to safeguard the dignity, well-being, and future of all children, the CRC. It is adopted by United Nations General Assembly on November 20, 1989 and entering into force on September 2, 1990. The CRC is the most widely ratified human rights treaty in history. It sets out the civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights of children, affirming that every child, regardless of their race, religion, gender, or ability, is entitled to special care, protection, and opportunities for development. The convention is anchored on four core principles: non-discrimination, the best interest of the child, the right to life, survival and development, and the right of the child to be heard. It places a strong responsibility on governments, communities, and societies to ensure that every child is raised in a safe, healthy, and nurturing environment. So in our report, we will explore the key articles of the CRC, its influence on national laws, particularly here in the Philippines, and why its full implementation remains essential in today's world. So to add up, the Philippines ratified the CRC on July 26, 1990 and has since enacted several important laws to fulfill its treaty obligations. These include the Child and Youth Welfare Code, Republic Act No. 7610, or Special Protection of Children Against Abuse, Exploitation, and Discrimination Act, and the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act of 2006, or the RA 9344. Again, the purpose of the convention is to promote, protect, and ensure the full and harmonious development of every child, recognizing children as rights holders and not merely as passive recipients of adult care. It seeks to establish a universal standard for the treatment and well-being of children across all nations. So, let us now begin by understanding what this convention truly means for children, for families, and for the future of our society. Article 1. Definition of a child. Article 1 defines who is considered a child under the convention. According to this article, a child is anyone below 18 years old. However, if a country's national law says a person becomes an adult before the age of 18, like for example at 16, then that law may apply. So this definition sets the foundation for all the rights mentioned in the CRC. Before we can protect a child's rights, we must first clearly define who a child is. Article 2. Non-discrimination. Article 2 emphasizes equality and non-discrimination. It states that every child has the same rights no matter who they are or where they come from, and children must not be treated unfairly because of their race, gender, language, religion, disability, background, or even because of their parents' status or beliefs. Governments must also actively protect children from any kind of discrimination. So, all children are equal in rights, and no child should be left out or treated unfairly for any reason. Article 3, Best Interest of the Child. So, Article 3 centers on the best interest of the child, which must always come first in any action, decision, or law affecting children. This means that all decisions, whether made by courts, governments, social workers, or schools, must consider what is the best for the child, and that governments must protect and care for children by making laws and providing services that support their safety, health, and well-being. Also, with institutions like schools, orphanages, or hospitals that handle children must meet high standards of safety and quality. So, the child's best interest must always be the top priority, whether it's in court, at home, or in government policies. So, next is Article 4, Making Rights Real. In Article 4 tells us that governments that sign the convention must take action to make children's rights a reality. This includes creating or changing laws, policies, and programs that protect and promote the rights of every child. And for economic and social and cultural rights like education, healthcare, or social services. Countries must do their best with the resources they have, and they can also ask for help from the other countries or international organization if needed. So, children's rights must not remain promises. They must be put into action. And governments are responsible for making sure these rights are fulfilled through real effort. So, next is Article 5, Family Guidance as Child Develop. So, Article 5 recognizes that parents, guardians, or other caregivers play a vital role in guiding children. And as children grow and mature, they gain the ability to make more decisions on their own. This is what the convention called as their evolving capacities. Also, governments must respect and support the role of families in helping children understand and exercise their rights, while also recognizing that as children get older, they should have more say in matters that affect them. So, children have rights, but they also need guidance. The convention supports a balance, like letting children grow in independence while still being guided by loving and responsible adults. So, next, Article 6, Life, Survival, and Development. So, in Article 6 emphasizes one of the most fundamental rights of all, that every child has the inherent right to life simply by being human. And governments must also do everything they can to make sure that children not only survive but also grow and develop in the best way possible, physically, emotionally, mentally, and socially. This article is closely connected with other rights in the CRC, such as access to healthcare, nutrition, education, and a safe environment, all of which support a child's life and development. So, children have the right to live, grow, and thrive. It is the duty of every government to protect this right and ensure that every child is given the chance to reach their full potential. Next is Article 7, the birth registration, name, nationality, and care. So, Article 7 guarantees several key rights from the moment a child is born: that the child must be registered at birth, that every child has the right to have a name, and a nationality. As far as possible, a child also has the right to know and be cared for by their parents. And government must ensure that these rights are protected, especially for children who might otherwise end up stateless, like without any nationality. So every child has the right to legal identity, a name, a nationality, and a connection to their family. These rights are essential for accessing other rights like healthcare, education, and protection. So next is Article 8, Protection and Preservation of Identity. So in Article 8, protects the child's identity, which includes name, nationality, family ties, and relationships. This article means that a child has the right to keep their legal identity and family connections, and this must not be taken away without a valid legal reason. And if a child loses or is illegally denied any part of their identity, the government must help restore it as soon as possible. So, a child's identity is important and personal. Government must protect it and help restore it if ever lost or taken away illegally. Next is Article 9, Keeping Families Together. So in Article 9 protects the relationship between children and their parents while also ensuring the child's best interest as are always considered. It says that children should not be separated from their parents unless absolutely necessary, like in situations of abuse or neglect or danger. However, if separation happens, everyone involved has the right to be heard in a legal process. And children have the right to stay in contact with both parents even after separation unless this would harm the child. So if the separation is caused by government actions like arrest, imprisonment, or deportation, the child and the parents must be kept informed about each other's location. So children have the right to live with and stay connected to their parents unless separation is truly in their best interest. Next is Article 10, Contact with Parents Across Countries. So in Article 10 focuses on children and families who are separated by international borders. It says that if a child or a parent applies to leave or enter a country in order to be reunited with their family, the government must handle the request in a positive, humane, and fast way. And children whose parents live in different countries still have the right to maintain contact with both parents unless it would harm the child. So, children have the right to be with their families even across borders, and governments must support family reunification and help children stay connected with both parents. Next is Article 11, Protection from Kidnapping. So in Article 11, it is about protecting children from being taken out illegally to another country or not being returned after traveling abroad. It means that governments must take active steps to prevent and stop child abduction across national borders, and countries should work together through international agreements to make sure that children who are taken without permission can be safely returned to their home. This often refers to situations like, for example, one parent taking a child to another country without the other parent's consent, or in other words, parental abduction, or human trafficking, or kidnapping across borders. So, children must be protected from illegal transfer or abduction across countries, and governments should cooperate internationally to prevent this and ensure the child's safe return. Next is Article 12, Respect for Children's Views. In Article 12 recognizes the child's right to be heard. It means children have the right to freely express their opinions on issues that affect them, and their views should be taken seriously, depending on their age and maturity. Also, in legal or administrative matters like custody cases or school decisions, children should be given the chance to participate either directly or through a representative. So, this article encourages respect for children's voices and promote child participation in decision making. Thus, children have the right to speak and be heard, especially in decisions that affect their lives. And their opinions also matter and should be considered based on their maturity. Next is Article 13, Freedom of Expression. So in Article 13 protects a child's freedom of expression. This includes the right to speak, write, draw, or share ideas freely in any form like spoken words, writing, art, or media. And the right to seek, receive, and share information even across national borders. However, this right is not unlimited. It can be restricted by law when needed. It is to protect the rights or reputation of others and to protect national security, public safety, public health, or morals. So, child have the right to express themselves freely, but this right must be exercised with respect and responsibility and may be limited only for lawful and necessary reasons. Next is Article 14, Freedom of Thought and Religion. So Article 14 recognizes that children have the right to think freely, develop their own beliefs, and choose their religion or spirituality. And as children grow, they should be allowed to make these choices more independently. So parents and guardians can guide their children in these matters depending on the child's age and maturity, or what we call evolving capacities. However, this freedom can be limited by law only when necessary. Once again, to maintain public order, health, safety, to protect morals, or to respect the rights of the others. So, children have the right to believe and think freely, including choosing their religion with guidance from parents and protection under the law when necessary. Excuse. So, Article 15, Freedom of Association. So, Article 15 protects a child's right to join or form groups like clubs, organizations, or community groups and gather peacefully, such as participating in peaceful protests, meetings, or social events. These rights help children participate in society, express their views, and collaborate with others. However, these freedoms can be limited by law only when necessary. For example, to protect national security or public safety, to protect public order or health or morals, or to protect the rights and freedom of others. So, children have the right to gather, organize, and join groups as long as it's peaceful and respectful of others, and restrictions are allowed only when truly necessary and lawful. So, Article 16, Right to Privacy. So, in Article 16, protects a child's right to privacy. It means that children should not be unfairly or illegally intruded upon in matters involving their personal privacy, their family life, their home, their communications like letters or messages or etc., and their honor and reputation. But if ever anyone tries to violate this privacy or harm a child's reputation, the law must protect the child from such interference or attack. This applies to individuals, institutions, media, and even government authorities. So, children have the right to be protected from unnecessary or illegal intrusions into their private lives, and their dignity must be respected at all times. Next is Article 17, Access to Information. So, Article 17 is about children's access to the appropriate and beneficial information, especially from mass media like TV, radio, books, and the internet. So it means that children should be able to access information that helps their development, support their well-being, and respect their rights. And government should promote positive and educational media content, protect children from harmful or inappropriate material, support media content in languages children understand, and encourage children's own expression through media like school newspaper or youth radio if there's any. So children have the right to access helpful, safe, and diverse media content, and governments must both promote access to good information and protect children from harmful materials. So next is Article 18, Parental Responsibilities and State Association. So Article 18 focuses on the shared responsibility of both parents in raising child and the support role of the government. It states that both parents are equally responsible for the upbringing and development of their child, and parents or guardians have the primary duty to care for their children, always putting the best interest of the child first. And also, governments must provide support and services to help parents and guardians raise their children, and ensure the availability of child care services, especially for working parents, so that children are still properly cared for even when their parents are at work. So, raising a child is a shared duty of both parents, and the government must support families in this role through services, assistance, and childcare options. And that concludes the part of my report on the Convention on the Rights of the Child. I hope this gave us a clearer understanding on how the convention seeks to protect and empower children around the world.
Good day, everyone. This is Zara. I will continue the discussion for the succeeding articles. Let's begin with Article 19, Protection from Violence, Abuse, and Neglect. This article emphasizes the child's right to be protected from all forms of abuse, violence, and neglect. It places responsibility on states to take appropriate legislative, administrative, social, and educational measures to safeguard children, especially when they are under the care of parents, guardians, or any other individual. These measures include not only preventing abuse, but also setting up systems for reporting, investigating, and responding to cases, as well as supporting the child and their caregivers. Now moving to Article 20, Children Without Families. This article applies to children who are deprived of their family environment, whether temporarily or permanently. In such cases, the state must ensure that these children receive special protection and alternative care. These can take the form of foster care, adoption, or placement in institutions, depending on what best suits the child's need. Importantly, the state must consider the child's cultural, religious, and linguistic background when making these decisions. Together, these articles reinforce the importance of safety, stability, and thoughtful care in child's development, especially when their family situation is uncertain or unsafe. Article 21. Children who are adopted. So, the adoption principle is that the best interests of the child must be the primary consideration in all adoption processes. It applies to both national and international adoptions. States are required to establish and follow laws and procedures that ensure adoptions are authorized only by competent authorities and that all necessary legal safeguards are in place. This includes making sure that adoption is permissible only when it's in the child's best interest and only after considering all alternatives like foster care or support within the extended family. So, inter-country adoption is a last resort. So, it is used only when domestic care options like foster adopted families are unavailable. So, the convention also stresses the importance of ethical international adoption, discouraging any form of exploitation or trafficking of children. Article 22. Refugee children. So, this article addresses the rights of refugee children. It states that if a child is seeking refugee status or has been recognized as a refugee, either alone or with their family, they are entitled to receive protection and humanitarian assistance. The article emphasizes cooperation between countries and international organizations like the United Nations to ensure these children receive the care and services they need. These children must enjoy all the rights outlined in the Convention, regardless of their immigration or refugee status. Article 23. Children with disabilities. This article focuses on the rights of children with disabilities. It recognizes that a mentally or physically disabled child has the right to enjoy a full and decent life in conditions that promote dignity, self-reliance, and active participation in the community. States must ensure that such children receive special care and, whenever possible, free assistance. This includes access to education, training, healthcare, and recreational opportunities designed to help the child achieve the greatest possible development and social inclusion. The goal is to ensure that every child with a disability can live a meaningful and empowered life. Article 24. Health, water, food, and environment. So this article addresses the child's right to the highest attainable standard of health. It obliges states to provide access to healthcare services and to ensure that no child is deprived of that right. This includes efforts to reduce infant and child mortality, provide nutritious food and clean drinking water, ensure access to health education, and combat disease. Article 24 also stresses the importance of preventive health care, family planning education, and support for parents. Importantly, it encourages international cooperation to help developing countries provide quality healthcare services to the children. Article 25. Review of a child's placement. So, Article 25 ensures that any child who is placed by the state for care, protection, or treatment, whether in a hospital, institution, or foster care, has the right to a regular review of their situation. This means that the child's placement and treatment must be evaluated periodically to ensure it still meets the child's needs and serves the best interests. It prevents children from being forgotten or left in unsuitable or harmful environments. Article 26. Social and economic health. So this article talks about the child's right to benefit from social security. This means that children have the right to receive financial or other assistance from the state, especially when their family is in need. Governments must take steps to ensure children benefit from available resources to support their basic well-being and development, especially in areas like health, housing, and education. Article 27. Adequate Standard of Living. So this article addresses the child's right to an adequate standard of living. It states that parents or legal guardians have the primary responsibility to provide the conditions necessary for the child's development. However, if they are unable to do so, the state has a duty to assist them, particularly in ensuring the child has access to food, clothing, and housing. The goal is to make sure every child lives in dignity and has the foundation needed to grow and thrive. Article 28. Right to education. So this article focuses on the child's right to education. It obliges states to recognize this right and make primary education compulsory and free for all. States must also encourage the development of different forms of secondary and higher education, making them accessible to every child. In addition to access, this article highlights the importance of making school environments safe by eliminating practices like school violence and harsh discipline, and promoting respect for children's dignity throughout the education system. Article 29. Goals of Education. So this article emphasizes that education should be directed at developing the child's personality, talents, and abilities to their fullest potential. It should also prepare children for responsible life in a free society, fostering respect for human rights, cultural identity, the environment, and peaceful living among diverse people. In short, education isn't just about academics. It's about forming a child's values, confidence, and role in society. Article 30. Children from minority or indigenous groups. So this article ensures that the rights of minority and indigenous children are protected. It states that children belonging to such groups must not be denied the right to enjoy their own culture, to practice their religion, and to use their language. This article highlights the importance of respecting a child's cultural identity, especially in diverse societies, so they grow up proud of who they are. Article 31. Leisure, Play, and Culture. So this article recognizes the child's right to rest, leisure, and play, as well as to participate freely in cultural life and the arts. This means that play and recreation are just fun. They are essential to a child's well-being and development. States are responsible for ensuring that children have safe, accessible spaces and opportunities to enjoy these activities and to support their creativity, expression, and participation in their cultural traditions. Article 32. Child labor. So this article focuses on the protection of children from economic exploitation and from any work that is likely to be harmful to their health or development or that interferes with their education. States must set minimum age requirements for employment, regulate working hours, and ensure children are not forced into labor that is dangerous, exploitative, or inappropriate for their age. Article 33. Protection from harmful drugs. So, this article addresses the issue of drug abuse and drug trafficking. It requires states to take all appropriate measures, including laws, education, and social programs, to protect children from the illicit use of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. It also obliges them to prevent the use of children in the illegal production and distribution of such substances. Article 34. Protection from sexual abuse. So this article is about protecting children from sexual exploitation and abuse. It requires states to take all appropriate measures to prevent the inducement, coercion, or exploitation of children in prostitution, pornography, or any unlawful sexual activity. This includes not only creating and enforcing laws, but also putting in place programs that educate, prevent, and respond to these abuses. The goal is to keep every child safe from being sexually manipulated or exploited in any form. Article 35. Prevention of abduction, sale, and trafficking. So this article commits states to take all possible national, bilateral, and multilateral actions to stop child trafficking in all its forms. This includes both domestic and international cooperation to track and stop individuals or networks that exploit children for labor, illegal adoption, or other forms of abuse. Article 36. Protection from exploitation. So this article serves as a catch-all protection. It ensures that children are protected against all other forms of exploitation that may harm their welfare in ways not specifically mentioned in earlier articles. This includes economic, social, or emotional exploitation that violates their dignity or development. The message is clear. Any action that takes unfair advantage of a child must be prevented and addressed. Article 37. Children in detention. So this article protects children from torture, inhumane treatment, or unlawful deprivation of liberty. It clearly states that no child shall be subjected to torture or cruel, degrading punishment. If a child must be detained, it should be done only as a last resort and for the shortest appropriate period of time. Children who are deprived of liberty must be treated with humanity and respect for their dignity and be held separately from adults unless it is in their best interest. They also have the right to legal assistance and to challenge the legality of their detention.
Article 38. Protection in War. This article states that all children have the right to protection from war and armed conflict. Furthermore, children under the age of 15 must not be allowed to participate in war or join armed forces. Article 39. Recovery from trauma and reintegration. Children who are victims of any form of neglect, exploitation, abuse, torture, cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, or armed conflict have the right to receive assistance and social support to help them recover their health, dignity, self-respect, and social well-being. Article 40. Children who break the law. Children who are alleged, accused, or guilty of breaking the law must be treated with dignity and fairness. It ensures that children are entitled to legal safeguards and due process, including the presumption of innocence, the right to be heard, and the right to legal assistance, and to have the decisions reviewed by a higher authority. It also emphasizes the importance of promoting the child's reintegration into society and guiding them toward the constructive role in the community, rather than resorting to the punitive measures. Article 41. Best lawful children applies. If the laws of the country protect children's rights better than this convention, then those laws should be used. Article 42. Knowledge of the rights. Governments should actively tell children and adults about this convention so that everyone knows about children's rights. Article 43. Committee on the Rights of the Child. Composition of the committee. The committees shall be composed of 10 experts, later increased into 18 under the amendment. Members must be high moral standing, have recognized competence in children's rights, be nominated their home state, but serve in the personal capacity, not as representatives. The consideration must be given to equitable geographical distribution, principal legal systems of the world. So the election process, each state party must nominate one candidate. Elections are conducted by secret ballot, held at UN headquarters during meetings convened by the UN Secretary General. To elect a candidate must obtain the largest number of votes, an absolute majority from state parties present and voting. Members serve 4-year terms with possible re-election if renominated. After the first election, the terms of the 5 members expire after 2 years to allow staggered rotation, determined with drawing lots. Vacancy procedure. In case of death, resignation, or inability to perform duties, the nominating state party may appoint a replacement subject to committee's approval. In operational rules and meetings, the committee shall adopt its own rules of procedure, elects officers such as chairperson every 2 years, holds regular meetings typically at UN headquarters. The meeting duration is determined by state parties, subject to General Assembly approval. Support and funding. The UN Secretary General provides administrative support, for example, staff and facilities. Committee members receive emoluments or compensation from UN resources with General Assembly approval. Article 44. Reporting obligations. So the state parties must report to the committee via UN Secretary General on the following. So first, the measure taken to implement the convention, progress in realizing children's rights. So the reporting schedule will be initial report. This is within 2 years of ratification. The second will be follow-up reports, which is every 5 years. So the report must also include challenges and difficulties in implementation. Second, detailed and comprehensive information without repeating previous basics. Committee role may request additional information and submit reports on its activities to the UN General Assembly for every 2 years. So the reports must be made widely available to the public. Article 45. Enhancing implementation and cooperation. The UN and the specialized agencies involvement, UNICEF, UN organs, and its specialized agencies can attend committee discussions, offer expert advice, and submit relevant reports. Technical support request. Committee may pass on states' request for technical help to UN agencies with its observations. Studies on child rights. Committee may recommend the UN General Assembly ask the Secretary General to conduct studies on specific child rights issues. So recommendation and feedback. Committee can issue suggestions and general recommendations to state parties and report to them to the General Assembly. Article 46. Open for signatures. The present convention shall be open for signature by all states. In continuation, Article 47, Ratification. The present convention is subject to ratification. Instruments of ratification shall be deposited with the Secretary General of the United Nations. Article 48. Accession. The present convention shall remain open for accession by any state. The instruments of the accession shall be deposited with the Secretary General of the United Nations. Article 49. Entry into force of the Convention. General entry into force. The Convention becomes effective 30 days after the 20th ratification or accession is deposited with the UN Secretary General. For the new states joining later, for any states that ratifies or access after the 20th, the Convention enters into force for that state 30 days after its own deposit of ratification or accession. Article 50. Amendments to the Convention. For the proposal and conference, any state party can propose an amendment via the UN Secretary General. If 1/3 of the state parties agree within 4 months, a conference is convened to discuss and vote. Amendments adopted by a majority vote are sent to the UN General Assembly for the approval. So the entry into force, amendments become binding once it is approved by the General Assembly and accepted by 2/3 of the state parties. So the binding effect will be amendments bind only those states that have accepted them. Other states remain bound by the original convention and amendments they have accepted. Article 51. Reservations. The UN Secretary General circulates state reservations made upon ratification or accession. Incompatible reservation against the Convention's purpose are not allowed. Reservations may be withdrawn at any time by notifying the Secretary General. Article 52. Denunciation. A state party may denounce the present convention by written notification to the Secretary General of the United Nations. Denunciation becomes effective 1 year after the date of the receipt of the notification by the Secretary General. Article 53. Depository. The Secretary General of the United Nations is designated as the depository of the present convention. In continuation, Article 54, authentic texts and signing. The original present convention, of which the Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish texts are equally authentic, shall be deposited with the Secretary General of the United Nations. In witness, therefore, thereof, the undersigned plenipotentiaries, being duly authorized thereto by their respective governments, have signed the present convention.